Hello students, today we are going to deal with standard 10th history. First topic, historiography, development in the West. Before we start with this topic, we need to know what is history or define history. History is nothing but coherent event of the past. Now the next question arises in our mind. Is history important to us? Why we should learn history? Yeah. The answer to this question is very simple. History is important to us because our ancestors have made many mistakes, and these mistakes we should not repeat it, or it should not be repeated. So we find that history is important for us to learn. Now, my dear students, let us come to the topic, historiography, the development in the West. In that, first, we have to know what is historical research. It's very simple. Historical research, writing and studies are carried out with an objective of understanding the chronology of the past events and its interconnections. This is a continuous process. Now, how can we do this research? If we take the example of science, let us say physical and natural science, we can do the research through laboratory, through experiments, through observations, and we verify the available knowledge. We use this to verify the available knowledge. And this method allows formulating laws that remains true irrespective of time and space. Those laws can be tested and proved repeatedly. Now, my dear students, Newton's law. Example is very simple. Newton's law. When we speak about Newton's law, my dear students, whatever you study today in the 10th standard, the Newton's law, you are going to study the same thing even after 10 years. There is no change. There is one formulated law, and this law is applicable even today and hence even 10 years after. And this law has been tested and proved repeatedly. Now the question arises, can we use the same method in the historical research? The answer is very simple, no. We cannot use the same laboratory method or the experiment and observations for history because we are not present in the historical time and space, and the historical events cannot be recreated. Also, in history, it is not possible to formulate laws that remain true irrespective of time and space. Now, example I would like to give here is uprising of 1857. Now, we were not present during that time. We cannot recreate uprising of 1857. We can enact it. Now, to begin with, I would say that, if you get a historical document or a coin or an inscription, can we read that inscription? Can we find out what is there in that coin? I will say no. Because To know about historical events which is related to the coin or the inscription, you require an expert, and for that you require an historian. A historian is considered to be a person who is an expert, who knows the language and the script of the historical document in order to read it and understand its meaning. Also, an expert can examine the authenticity of the document by using the criteria such as lettering style, author style of writing, manufacturing date, the type of paper used, the stamp of the authority, etc. Such documents is further scrutinized by the historians with the help of relevant historical references. Now, my dear students, if I get a coin, for example, I have seen something written in Marathi or in Sanskrit. I cannot come to a conclusion saying that this coin is a Rajmudra of Shivaji Maharaj. Yes, my dear students. Who can say whether it is authentic, whether it belongs to the medieval period? It is none other than an expert who knows the lettering style, who knows to which date this coin belongs to, who has manufactured it or who has minted it, the stamp of the authority on that coin. Only a historian can do that. And how can he do it? He will critically examine and he will come to a conclusion. Now, my dear students, now we will see what is historical research method. Now, historical research method, there are 5 steps. First, formulating hypothesis is the first step. Second step, critically examining the various sources of history. Third step, examining the relevant references of available historical information. Fourth step, collecting historical references, highlighting the process that lead to historical transition, carrying on comparative analysis. Fifth step, understanding the references regarding time and space. The key word here is time and space. Please note that. Understanding the references regarding time and space of the given historical events and also various conceptual framework used in historical research method. And last but not the least, formulating relevant questions in view of historical references. Now let me tell you, when you form relevant question and you get the answer to that question, then your historical research is on a right track. Or if you don't get the answers to these questions, then my dear students, then you need to do more and more research. So this is a historical research method. It involves 6 steps, not the 5 steps, 6 steps. First, formulating hypothesis. Second one, critically examining of various sources of history. Third one, examining relevant references of available historical information. Collecting informations, highlighting the process that lead to historical transition, carrying out comparative analysis. Fifth step, understanding the references regarding time and space of the given historical events, also conceptual framework used in historical research method. And the last one is formulating relevant questions in view of historical references. Now, what are the various methods we use for historical research? Now, methods are of various disciplines. They are as follows. 1. Archaeology. Second, science. Manuscriptology. Epigraphy. Epigraphy means study of inscription, analysis of lettering style. Linguistic, numismatic, study of coins. Genealogy, the study of lineage. Now, my dear students, this one question, what I'm going to say, is always asked in the board exam. What is historiography? The answer is very simple. It is there in page number 2. The writing of critical historical narrative is known as historiography. Now, when we learn about historical research method, we have seen that a historian is critically examining the historical sources and the historical narrative. It's very simple. They have to critically examine it. And then, after critically examining the historical research, then we write the narrative. So, in short, we say the writing of critical historical narrative is known as historiography, and a scholar who writes such narratives are called historians. Now, my dear students, historians cannot include every event of the past in his narrative. The inclusion of interpretation of historical events by historian often depend on conceptual framework adopted by him. His style of writing is determined by conceptual framework. Now, tradition of historical narrative, or the tradition of writing historical narrative, that is historiography, was not prevalent in ancient societies. In short, we say that, however, they were eager to know what their ancestors have done. They were eager to know what the ancient people have done in their civilization. Now, how they came to know? It's very simple. Passing it through oral sources. Oral sources, I mean, is through stories, through songs. The ancient communities all over the world used various means like cave paintings, storytellings, singing songs, ballads. All these were used for this purpose of passing on the stories to the next generation. And these traditional means are looked upon as the source of history in modern historiography. I would like to give an example. When we say, I have a friend of mine who says, I belong to the ancestors of Maharana Pratap. How did he come to know about it? It is through his grandfathers. They have been continuously passing on these stories related to Maharana Pratap. The songs related to Maharana Pratap. The ancestral property which he has got, which Maharana Pratap has left in this world. Through all this, he comes to know that, he belongs to the ancestors of Maharana Pratap. How can we say that Shivaji Maharaj was a good administrator? I would like to give you one more example. Now, we came to know about Shivaji Maharaj through Pavadas. The Pavadas are sung by Mahatma Jyotirao Phule. Many of the eminent leaders, they have written these Pavadas and they have sung in the glory of Shivaji Maharaj. Now, my dear students, these traditional means are looked upon as a source of history in modern historiography. Now, there are four main characteristics of modern historiography. Which are those four? First, it is a method based on scientific principles. It begins with the formation of relevant questions. Nowadays, we cannot just say anything in air. If you are saying something, you have to prove it scientifically. So, the first method or the first characteristics of modern historiography is it is based on scientific principles. It begins with the formation of relevant questions. The second characteristics is these questions are anthropocentric. Anthropocentric means that these questions are about the deeds of the members of the ancient societies of that particular period. History does not suggest any interrelation between divine and human needs. The third characteristics is answer to these questions are supported by reliable evidence. When a question is asked, and when you get a desirable answer to those questions, and the evidences are there, that is proved that your historical research is correct, your narrative is correct. And last but not the least, history presents the graph of mankind journey with the help of the past human deeds. I repeat, history presents the graph of the mankind with the help of the past human deeds. Now, it is said that the modern historiography is with the above characteristics and is having roots to the Greek historical writings. History is originally a Greek term used by Herodotus, a Greek historian of 5th century BCE. He was the first person to use in his book entitled The Histories. Now, my dear students, further we will go and see what is the development of scientific perspective in Europe and historiography. Till 18th century CE, Europe has achieved remarkable progress in philosophy and science. They only believed that, in philosophies and science, they can make a remarkable achievement. But it was wrong. There were some scholars who believed that there are possibility of studying social and historical truth by applying scientific method. Now, the philosophical discussion focused more and more on the objectivity of history and historiography. Prior to the 18th century, all the European universities were interested only on philosophical discourse revolving around divine phenomena. Now, my dear students, it's very simple. In the 18th century, they only believed, they could do more research on philosophy and science. They did not believe that, in history, they could do historical research. However, gradually the scenario began to change. In 1737 CE, the Göttingen University, founded in Germany, this university was the first time had an independent department of history, and they started writing historiography or historical narratives. Later, the other German universities also became the center of historical studies. Now, my dear students, in this modern time, we find Mumbai University, Delhi University, the University of Madras, and all these universities have a separate department for history. Yes, my dear students. Now we can see the history has been given a scientific approach. Again, I stress, nothing is said in air. We need to prove it. And that we have to prove it scientifically. And there are many historians, they have made a great contribution towards writing historiography. Now, my dear students, now we will see who are the notable scholars. There are few notable scholars who has given a valuable contribution towards historiography, in the development of historiography. They are as follows. First, René Descartes. René Descartes, 1596 to 1650. He was the foremost scholar who insisted on verifying the reliability of historical documents by critically examining them. René Descartes says, you have to verify the reliability of historical document critically. Among the rules given by him in his book, Discourse of Method, the following, it is supposed to have a great impact on scientific method of research. He says, never to accept anything for true till the ground of the doubt are excluded. Now, my dear students, the next notable scholar is Voltaire. He was a French person. He was French by birth. He was an opinion that along with the objective of truth and chronology of the historical event, we have to consider social traditions, trade, economy, agriculture. They have to be given equal importance in historiography. It gives rise to a thought that understanding that all aspects of human life is important for history writing. Thus, it is said that Voltaire was a founder of modern historiography. The next notable scholar whom I am going to speak, he is a German, George William Friedrich Hegel, 1770 to 1831. Hegel was a German philosopher. He insisted that historical reality should be presented in a logical manner. To him, timeline of historical events was indicative for progress. He also thought that the presentation of history is bound to change as the new evidence come forth. With Hegel's philosophy, many scholars were convinced that historical method was not of lesser quality, though they differed from scientific method. The collection of these lectures and articles is published in the book entitled Encyclopedia of Philosophical Science. His book, Reason in History, is well known.